Hi everybody, it's Miss Bianca again from Crowder County Park and Historic Yatesville County Park. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about one of my favorite pollinators, which I'm sure you all are going to be quite familiar with, and it's going to be the monarch butterfly. So monarchs are very, very well known, and that's because of their bright colors, right? So they are this vibrant orange color that sticks out really well. And then they're also going to have black and white polka dotted bodies, which is really, really beautiful. So very easy to identify the monarch butterfly. But I wanted to talk to you guys about them just because they have lots of neat adaptations. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is going to be Monarch Migration. So they are very well known for their seasonal migration. So millions of monarchs travel from the US and Canada to go all the way to Mexico, which is about a 3,000-mile trip. And they're actually going to go through 4 generations of butterflies to actually complete the journey. So grandma, great-great-great-grandma, is going to start the journey, and she's going to lay her eggs along the way, and then eventually they're going to make it to Mexico. And then once it's time to head back, in the spring and summer, they're going to repeat this whole process over again and go through another 4 or 5 generations to get back all the way to Canada. So it's a pretty amazing journey that these butterflies go through. Another neat thing is that they're actually going to have an internal compass that allows them to know exactly where to go for this journey. So pretty incredible stuff. So the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is going to be the monarch life cycle. So they are butterflies, so they're going to go through metamorphosis. So a adult monarch butterfly is going to lay her eggs on milkweed, okay? And that's because the caterpillars are only going to eat the leaves of the milkweed plant, and so she has to lay her eggs there. And so she's going to lay her eggs on the milkweed. She actually uses some kind of like sticky glue substance to actually make sure the eggs stay. So if the wind blows or anything like that, the eggs are still going to be latched on to the leaf that she put them on. She's going to lay about 300, 500 eggs over a 2 to 5 week period. And then once the eggs hatch, the main focus of these caterpillars is just going to be to eat and eat and eat until they get really, really big. And they're going to be caterpillars, right? They're going to get a little bit bigger. And then after they are ready, they're going to actually go into the pupa stage, which will also be the chrysalis, right? And so they'll go into their chrysalis. And then once they're ready, they're going to emerge from their chrysalis and become the adult monarch butterfly, right? And then the whole process repeats itself. And the process with the chrysalis can take about a week or 2 before they finally emerge as monarch adults. So now I want to talk a little bit more in detail about the monarch adaptation. So specifically about the milkweed plants that they eat. So there's a really neat reason why these butterflies or the caterpillars only eat milkweed leaves. And that is because it is actually toxic. Monarchs have adapted so that the toxins do not bother them, but what happens is that it makes them toxic to animals that might want to eat them, like birds. And so if a bird were to eat a monarch caterpillar, they would very quickly learn that, that does not taste good, I don't like that, and they're not going to go after that caterpillar again. And another neat thing is there's going to be another butterfly that looks very, very similar, almost identical to a monarch. The only difference is going to be a black line at the bottom of the wings. That is the only differentiating thing between them, as well as size. And so this butterfly is called the viceroy butterfly, and they're going to be a little bit smaller than a monarch, but they actually are not toxic. They do not eat milkweed, but they've adapted to look like monarchs so that it confuses birds and so that they won't be eaten. So a pretty cool adaptation that other butterflies have because of the adaptations of the monarch. The last thing I wanted to discuss about these butterflies is actually going to be the conservation status of them. So as you know, monarchs are going to be pollinators, and so they use their little proboscis, which is like a straw, to sip out the nectar of plants. And in doing so, they're actually pollinating, right? They're bringing other plants to other places, which is a great, great thing. And the reason this is because they are very important to their ecosystems. They actually create prairies, which are going to be very, very important habitats for animals like American goldfinches, northern bobwhites, lots of other waterfowl and other species. They're also going to play an important part in the food chain. They're providing food sources by pollinating these plants, as well as being a food source themselves. So they're very, very important to this type of ecosystem. So their habitats usually consist of prairies, like I said, which is a declining habitat due to agriculture and development. And so milkweed plants that they rely on are actually being eradicated because they're considered weeds. And so now we only really see milkweed growing on the sides of roads and that sort of thing. So these agricultural fields have taken the place of these prairies. And so what's happened is that these butterflies are actually losing their winter habitats in Mexico due to development, deforestation, farmland. And since June 2017, overwintering populations have declined by 86%. The population in coastal California dropped from 148,000 butterflies in late 2017 to just 20,000 by the end of 2018. So these numbers are a bit concerning, but that is why there has been a lot of public awareness campaigns that have been started for this butterfly. So this has been to encourage people to actually grow milkweed in their own backyards. Parks like Crowder County Park, Historic Gatesville County Park, we both have pollinator gardens that include this plant to try to, save this habitat. Most of North Carolina actually used to be prairie, so we're trying to preserve this as much as we can. So I actually have a pollinator garden in my own yard, which includes swamp milkweed and some other pollinator plants. And so there's other ways that you can also get involved. There's going to be citizen science projects that you can get involved in, where you can actually record data for scientists so they can see why populations are declining and how much they're declining by. And monarch sanctuaries have actually been established in their overwintering areas to try to help them and help the numbers that are declining there. So there's lots of different things going on to try and help these butterflies. So now I want to share with you some footage of my own pollinator garden. I also have footage of actual monarch caterpillars on my milkweed. I have footage of mom laying her eggs on the milkweed, so that was all very, very neat to see. And then I also want to talk to you about the other types of pollinator plants that you could plant in your own yard. And then also some weeds that I actually just let grow that happen to be very, very important to certain animals. So we're going to talk a little bit about that now.
All right, so first off, we're going to start with the mountain mint. And that is this plant here. So it is mint. And butterflies and bees absolutely love mint. Another neat thing about mint is that it will actually spread everywhere, which is great. It has spread all over my yard. It started out as a very small plant. Another little plant that I want to show you that I let just naturally grow in here is going to be prairie phlox. And this is also a great butterfly plant, and it's considered just a naturally growing weed, but it is actually really, really beautiful. This plant here is going to be white aster, and when it starts blooming, it'll have tons of beautiful white little flowers all over it. It's also a very good plant that will spread as well. And the good thing about this plant is that it actually flowers in late summer and then even through the fall. And so that means that I am providing habitat for my pollinators all the way through the fall. And then, of course, we have our white clover, okay? Now, white clover is also a very popular flower with the bees. You'll see lots of bees coming to pollinate these flowers. Another thing is that rabbits actually love this stuff. And you will often, if you let it grow in your yard, will have bunnies lounging around eating your clover, which is pretty neat. this here is a plant that we just let grow. It started out just looking like this, down low. Kind of thought it was black-eyed Susans at first, but then it quickly corrected us in that regard. So we identified it, and we found out that this plant is called ribwort plantain. Now, it's not the prettiest thing in the world. It doesn't have brightly beautiful colored flowers, and it's actually a threatened species. And that is because it's considered a weed, right? So it's often mowed down, overlooked, and that sort of thing. But it is actually very important to the common buckeye butterfly. This is the host plant for the common buckeye. And so they need this plant in order to lay their eggs. Once again, just like the monarchs. So there's so many of these plants that we don't realize how important they actually are. But they definitely are serving their purpose. This plant here is going to be green coneflower, and when this plant actually gets its flowers, it'll be long stems with purple flowers, and the bees and butterflies love this plant as well. And it also provides a food source for birds like goldfinches. They're going to love the seed heads that actually appear from the flowers. Now this plant here is not one that I planted personally, but I did let it grow and I identified it. And so what this is, it's actually called sourweed. And this is actually a very important weed. And the reason is it's the host plant for the American copper butterfly. So they actually lay their eggs on these plants here. And so they need these around in order to lay their eggs, just like the monarchs. And last but not least, we have our milkweed, okay? So this is my swamp milkweed. And usually you're gonna see this growing around the edges of ponds and that sort of thing, because it's gonna prefer to have the wet conditions. But it actually grows really well in my pollinator garden because I am on a hill. And so all the water is gonna run right down to it. So it actually does pretty well. Other types of milkweed that grow well is going to be the common milkweed. That's going to prefer drier conditions. So when I do finally get some of that in, I'm probably going to plant it closer up there so that it has a drier condition to thrive in. But this is going to be the swamp milkweed, and hopefully soon I should start having more monarch caterpillars, as I had around 20 or 30 last year, and they completely ate all the milkweed. So hopefully we'll have some caterpillars here soon. So one more fun fact that I wanted to share with you all regarding the milkweed is why the plant is actually called milkweed. So let's do a little experiment here. Let's do one of the smaller leaves. Let's see. So if you actually pick this out, okay, you can see there is a milky white substance that comes out of the plant. And that is actually what is going to make the leaves toxic for the caterpillars, but that is why it is called milkweed.
Alright, well I hope you guys enjoyed looking at my pollinator garden. Now I'm going to share some footage with you of the actual monarch caterpillars on my milkweed from last year, so I hope you enjoy. And then after that you'll get to see some footage taken from historic Yatesville County Park and Crowder County Park of the pollinator gardens there and the different types of pollinators that are benefiting from it. But thank you guys so much for watching, and let us know if you have any questions.